good afternoon, whatever time of day it is that you are listening, folks. Thank you very, very much for listening. Day today is the 29th of March, year of our Lord, 2024. Welcome to yet another edition of The Coping Hour, hosted by Nicholas Inkle, a.k.a. Motown Noah. Got a big... Nope, not restarting. Gonna roll through this one. There's some weird, like, DIY bullshit happening above me right now. They started doing... I don't know if it's like an actual construction team or what they got going on, if it's literally just some dude. I don't know if it's on my floor or if it's above me right now, but I'm bringing this up for two reasons. One, because they started at 8 in the morning. That's not cool. Wait until 9 at least, right? And then the second thing is if you hear a bunch of construction noises in the background, you might not. You might go the whole episode. You might not even hear anything. I'm just giving you a little heads up that if you do hear stuff, A, I apologize, and B, it is me and it is not you. There's nothing going around you. Because sometimes... There's like sirens and shit that you guys will hear when you're listening to the show, and you guys will email in and be like, by the way, every time I hear a siren in the show, I always think, even if, you know, if I'm in the car or something, if I always think that it's around me. No, it's usually me. Such is life in the Windy City. In the big city. It's just a bunch of sirens. Anyways, let's talk about a lot of stuff. Great setup for a show. Let's talk about a lot of stuff. I watched some games this week that I kind of want to talk about. This first one was the Lakers-Bucks game in Milwaukee the other night. And there are a few reasons why I want to bring this up. I think the first one is I don't necessarily owe D'Angelo Russell an apology, but I did kind of have to retroactively go back and watch some highlights of this game, despite having sat through, I can't even say the full 48 minutes, 58 minutes because it went to double overtime. D'Angelo Russell had 29, 7, and 12, and 2 steals. I didn't see any of those. It's literally the fourth quarter. My girlfriend and I are watching the game, and I'm like, D'Angelo Russell just hasn't... I don't think he's scored in this game. He just hasn't done anything. They immediately flash a graphic. D'Angelo Russell with 29 points, and they just basically say exactly what I just said. The fuck? Huh? Like, there were moments in this game where I kind of stopped paying attention because Milwaukee goes up 15. I'm like, all right, cool. They're, like, rapping in the door. LeBron's not playing in this game. Milwaukee's completely healthy, like sans Patrick Beverley, I guess, and they're going to be without him for the next 3 to 4 months. Tore a ligament in his wrist. Absolutely brutal. Kind of puts him in a weird spot with if the Bucks do a finals run. You imagine a guy like Pat Bev. I mean, he could sort of definitely fit into that three-month timeline. You imagine a guy like him, he's going to do whatever he can to get back onto the court if the Bucks do make it to the finals, which after the other night against the Lakers, I don't want to say I'm not so sure. You know, D'Angelo Russell puts up a phantom almost 29-point triple-double. It's like it didn't even happen. I swear to God, I'm sitting here like, did he record all of these stats during commercial or like during the halftime show or something and it just wasn't on camera? Like, when the fuck did he do all of this? And it's no shade to D'Angelo Russell. It has been in the past. I've historically not been a huge D'Angelo Russell guy. Guy who just like puts up a bunch of shots and most of them don't go in, except the ones that like technically matter. And then I'm supposed to, and then he does the ice in his vein shit, and then we're else. But wow, D'Angelo Russell, like really high volume scorer. It's like not really. But we've seen in recent years that like post trade deadline, D'Angelo Russell has kind of been that bitch. And that's definitely been the case this year, too. He's put together a lot of solid games. No exceptions here. Another prize of the night was Austin Reeves putting up a 30-point triple-double, the second triple-double in his career. This pissed me off. This genuinely made me mad. And again, it's not because I don't like Austin Reeves. It's because he's fucking nasty, and I don't like how nasty he is. Like, I don't know what it is about him, but it's something about watching Austin Reeves. And it's not like, I guess it would be one thing. Because, like, Luka will put up a 30-point triple-double, and I'm like, yeah. Jokic will put up a 30-point triple-double. I'm like, yeah. Giannis will put up a 30-point triple-double. I'm like, yeah. And then Austin Reeves is like 30-point triple-double. I'm like, nope. No, but he was amazing in this game. And I got to give a little bit of shit to Reggie Miller because at the end of regulation, there's this technically defensive breakdown by Milwaukee where Austin Reeves gets a shot off 38, 39, hell, make it 40 feet from the basket. And it did almost go in. Honestly, it did. But Reggie Miller talking about, how could the Bucks let this happen? I'm letting anybody shoot from 40. I am. Like, I think there are, what, 2 guys, 3, maybe 3 players, Dame, Luka, Steph, that I'm not letting shoot from that distance. Even if they did, I'm like, it's not a great shot. It's just a shot. It's an open look, I guess. So I was just kind of like, I mean, whatever. Even if the shot went in, it's not a bad shot. I mean, there are fractions of seconds left on the clock. Literally, the job was to just inbound the ball, and whoever has a look, like, put that shit up. It was just funny how disgusted and truly appalled Reggie Miller was that the Bucks allowed Austin Reeves to get a shot off 39 feet away from the basket. This was a good game from Giannis, too. Massive game from Anthony Davis. I want to talk a little bit about Giannis. We talked about this on the Shoot Around podcast that I've officially joined with Rusty Buckets, Alex Hoops, and Rudy St. Clair. The podcast is available on Apple Podcasts, I think wherever you listen to podcasts, and then it streams live on also Rusty Buckets every Wednesday afternoon. We were talking about this yesterday when we were recording. Is the Giannis is 10 feet away from the basket, he like puts a shoulder into somebody, takes off 8 feet away from the basket, extends his arm over you, and does a finger roll lay-in? Where does that rank in the pantheon of how the fuck do you guard that moves in the NBA? Because I often find myself being a prisoner of the moment, and every time I watch a Bucks game, I'm like, there's literally nothing that he can't do at a good to elite level. And I think that's where I trick myself into thinking that he should be the MVP this year, is because I'm like, there's literally nothing that he can't do. You know what I mean? And you talk about the way that he's sort of elevated and borderline transcended his playmaking this season. There's something to be said about that, right? I think while the Bucks are by no means underachieving, I think we all thought that they were going to be, have 5 to 6 more wins. A game that Milwaukee should not have fucking lost in a million years was against that Laker team. And I think it kind of adds to the point that I'm trying to make here, is they've just been like a gear too slow all season, kind of trying to figure this shit out. And I think now that Chris Middleton is back into the lineup, you have this added benefit of, all right, all your dudes are healthy. Even if Milwaukee is now going into the playoffs being like, I don't know, who's their backup point guard now? Like Pat Connaughton is who they're going to have to rely on. Like, that doesn't feel great, but your 1 through 3, rather I should say, phrase that stupid, your top 3 players against a lot of teams in the East are better than other teams' top 3 players between Giannis, Chris, and Dame. And to have those 3 dudes back in the fold together with Middleton coming back from the injury, getting those additional reps right before the playoff starts, that doesn't mean nothing, right? And that's huge. Candace Parker brought up an amazing point on Inside the NBA the other night. They were talking about, just who should win the MVP, and Shaq was like, it's going to be Shai Gilgeous-Alexander because he's had like 50 30-point games, X amount of 30-point games, which is a horseshit reason to. And then he just goes, and he fits all of my other criteria. Well, let's hear it, Shaq. This is why you're on TV. This is why. What's the other criteria, other than he's just scored a lot of 30-point games? Giannis has had a lot of 30-point games. I think it's like 20 some odd less than Shai has had this year, but he's still had a lot, and I'm pretty sure it's the most that he's had in his career. So if we want to do it that way, you know what I mean? And Candace was like, if this was the first season that we ever saw Jokic playing at the level that he's playing at, is he the MVP? Roll the credits. That's the question. That's literally the question. If your answer is yes, which it should unequivocally be yes, then Jokic is the MVP. And guess what? All of that, we do the same bullshit every year where we try to lie to ourselves and say that, well, late in the season, maybe this guy will kind of pull ahead in the race. And, what about this guy? And, hey, I don't know. If you look at this guy's, like, fucking on-off numbers and you look at all this bullshit. And I think the interesting thing, and I say all that just to say it's going to be Jokic. I don't even know what we're talking about. The interesting thing is, as it's funny to me that for somebody who doesn't care about advanced analytics the way that I don't, and then I will also then try to use them to the best of my ability to create arguments for the reason. And I'm not saying I've done that today, but create arguments to convince somebody that somebody should win X award. Because it's like, the stats exist for a reason. We might as well use them. It's a tough look when somebody is like, who do you think should win MVP? Who do you think should win Defensive Player of the Year, Rookie of the Year, all this shit? And you're like, and you lead your argument with, well, if you look at their PER, stop, pump the brakes. Nobody cares. Nobody, the average Joe does not want to hear about somebody's fucking PER. That's not interesting. Hell of a game from Anthony Davis in this one. Logged 52 minutes, put up like 30. I have it right here. 30-something, 20-something, and like 100 blocks. Anthony Davis had 34, 23, and 4 blocks. And for most of this game, at least in the last, the back 9 of it, I'd say, man, he was gassed. But he was still everywhere. He was still involved in seemingly every possession on both ends of the floor. There's got to be something to be said about how we just don't love Anthony Davis like that anymore. We just don't. I think we talked about this a month or two ago, this sort of tangent I went on, which was like, how are we going to remember Anthony Davis in the grand scheme of things in this greater, Laker pantheon, not even just as an individual basketball player, but as a Los Angeles Laker, because as soon as you suit up for them, that's what the conversation is going to become, is what is your legacy to this franchise going to mean? And I think it sucks for him, despite winning a championship for them with LeBron. It's that he's the dude that came to be LeBron's number 2. And there are players in the NBA who are able to be remembered as a number 2. LeBron casts too large of a shadow. You know what I mean? You think of a team like Denver. Nikola Jokic casts a wide shadow, but Jamal Murray is built for the shade. You know what I mean? So it's a guy like that. Steph Curry and Klay Thompson is another great example where these two guys can coexist in a way where their legacy isn't. And I feel like such a fucking loser doing legacy talk. Who cares? But it is interesting to me that a guy who has been as dominant on the defensive end as Anthony Davis has been for his entire career, dating back to Kentucky, dating back to high school, we're just kind of like, yeah, cool. Next. He hasn't won a DPOY. He's never going to win a DPOY. I would say that, impromptu segment, takes that I don't mean. Does Bam, if the NBA said for the 2024-2025 season, every single person, obviously excluding Rookie of the Year, like every single award has to go to somebody who's never won it before. Where is Defensive Player of the Year going? Assuming nobody gets hurt and they're all playing the same that they always have in their entire career. Are you giving it to Bam or are you giving it to Anthony Davis? I'm going to let you guys chew on that one, because the take that I don't mean is I think the conversation might be that Bam would deserve it more. But then there are nights that you watch Anthony Davis like against that Bucks team and you're like, I don't know how it wouldn't be him. I just don't know how it wouldn't be him. I brought up the Warriors a second ago. Not too much to mention here. They played a game against the Magic, and I'm sure you've all seen the clip. Steph is very animated 4 minutes into this game because Draymond got 2 techs and gets kicked out of the game 4 minutes in. And there's this clip of Steph, dog, you can't tell me he's not getting emotional. You just can't, because he 100% is. He's putting his head in his jersey. I swear to God, there are tears in his eyes. And you can just feel it. It's palpable. The amount of times that they have had this goddamn conversation where it's like, Draymond, you got to put a lid on it sometimes. It's moments like this that we can't lose you, is 4 minutes into a fucking game. When we're already slipping in the standings, we got Houston at the time of the game, on a 9-game winning streak. As of this recording, they're now on a 10-game winning streak, knocking on the door of a play-in berth, which would kick us out. The Lakers are doing their job. They're winning games. Well, how did that Grizzlies game go? I don't even end up seeing what that score ended up being. But they beat the Bucks, and that was a big deal in the standings, right? So a game like that against a surging Magic team, too, Draymond Green, dog, we need you. They tried. He's barking at the ref. First of all, you can't touch the ref. I'm pretty sure that's what he got the first technical for, was because he bumped him. Can't do it. Whatever. Okay, technical. And then the second one, I believe, happened while they were at commercial break. I might have that wrong. But Draymond gets kicked out. And after the game, Steph, he expresses those exact same sentiments where he's like, we just can't have it. I mean, we see Pajemski and Steph and even Chris Paul kind of trying to get Draymond away from it. Just being like, I just don't know if we've had this moment yet. truly where we watch it happen to Steph in real time and we can know, oh, fuck, is it over? Is it actually over? We've had moments, and we've flirted with this before. But, you know, with the aforementioned slip in the standings and Houston about to usurp them for that 11th seed, or 10th, I think it's the 11th seed, you're looking at an aging Warriors team. You know, Steve Kerr gets this contract extension, which perfectly places him, the end of his contract will now be the end of Steph's contract, and then you figure, you know, maybe whatever happens there, happens there. I think Draymond has an additional year on his contract, so he's unrestricted, and I believe it's 2027. But he's not seeing the end of that in Golden State, right? Are we at that point? If Golden State falls out of the plan and their season is over, just like they might as well have been the Pistons this year, right? They might as well have been the Spurs this year. Might as well have been the Wizards this year. Might as well have been the Hornets this year. If they aren't able to make the play-in, I don't give a shit about the playoffs, honestly. I think as long as they're able to squeak, well, they do though. Whatever. I digress. They got to do something. And, you know, I don't know what that would be. It's a fine contract. I mean, it just depends on how a team would value. Like, is that a guy that like Daryl Morey would want to go after, do you think? Although, no, what am I talking about? You're not putting Draymond Green on the same team as Joel Embiid. Because I was just thinking, like, I don't know, do they do like a sign and trade for like Tobias Harris or something? They do like the Andrew Wiggins thing that they did, but they do it for like Tobias Harris or something. I don't know. Send his ass to Charlotte and they do a sign and trade for Miles Bridges. Would that be funny, or would we all be kind of pissed about that? I know that most of you are going to be like, no, we don't want Miles Bridges in the league. I know. Stop. I know. But would it be funny, or would it make the Warriors less fun to root for because you have a guy as likable as Steph is, and then you bring in Miles Bridges? I think I'm talking myself out of it. I don't think it would be that funny. I think it would just be kind of annoying. Like, really, Mike Dunleavy? Like, huh? Bob Myers died for this? Really? And is that who you give the most credit to in this situation, is Bob Myers? For having the foresight to be like, it's over. It's over. I've been entangled in this for, I don't even know how long he was there. At least a decade. And, hey, man, I got my chips, and we're kind of getting to this point. You know, Steph's 35 years old. For a while, it kind of looked like, oh, it's just not going to be Klay anymore. And then he moves to the bench, and you're like, oh, okay, no, it works with Klay Thompson. You know, and I mean, you have a guy making 200 threes off the bench every single season, if that's the case moving forward. But now I'm also confused on what his future is going to look like, because we've heard sort of conflicting reports on that front. The easiest thing to assume is that it is very hard to imagine a scenario where the Warriors don't do everything in their power to keep him around. If not in the name of playing winning basketball, then in the name of doing Steph a solid, right? Even if Steve Kerr and Dunleavy feel like it's the right move to kind of go let Klay be a Laker. Go let him, like, do the thing where he's like, oh, my dad played for the Lakers, and now I play for the Lakers, and it's really cool, and I really valued my time in Golden State, but I'm really excited for this next chapter. And he can drive around in the Pacific down in, like, Venice Beach with Rocco. Could it happen? I think that's what we hypothesized on this show a couple months ago. I no longer totally believe that he's going to be gone. But I do know that it is probably time for Draymond to be gone. Last thing on the NBA front is the Houston Rockets. Oh, shit. Oh, whoa, whoa. Oh, no. Oh, my God. Oh, it happened. The Rockets got good. Turns out you do just want to sign two proven veterans, get a top 5 to top 10 head coach in the NBA, regardless of what he's done off the court. Whatever. Apparently, right? I'm not actually mad about it. Oh, he cheated on his wife. Whatever. You don't think your favorite player has done that before? Like, whatever, man. I don't condone it. I don't recommend anybody else does it, but I'm not going to. He's not Miles Bridges. Whatever. Turns out that's the formula. And then you just get a really strong 3 through 8. Who would have thunk it? Right? Rockets are on a 10-game winning streak, absolutely surging. They haven't even had Şengün, right? And Jalen Green's going off. I conducted an investigation the other day over on another shout-out to also Rusty Buckets. Jacob, a.k.a. Rusty Buckets, but on the channel also Rusty Buckets. He's lately been... I'm allowed to do like a 5-minute segment in one of his videos. Usually I think those videos are going to come out on Tuesdays. And this week, the video that my little segment that I did was I opened an investigation into some troubling, very damning allegations that came across my desk as it pertains to Jalen Green. Folks, they're saying he's a March merchant. They're saying Jalen Green is one of those guys who is a perfect tank commander for the first, 6 months of the season. And then as soon as March rolls around and the Rockets are trying to tank or do whatever they're trying to do, this year they're trying to win, as they should. Jalen Green's going to flip a switch and he's going to turn it on, and he is going to be that bitch. Let's talk about it. What did my investigation find? Well, in 2021 and 2022, his rookie season, he averaged 20 points, 3 assists, and 3 rebounds on 48, 39, 76 splits in the month of March. That was the best month of the season that he played. The following season, he averaged 23, 3, and 3 on 43, 33, and 76. That was the best month of the season that he played. And finally, and these numbers might be a little bit off because he's played like 2 games since, but I digress. This season, 27, 5, and 3 on 50, 40, 80. I think we actually talked about Jalen Green the other day, so I didn't need to read that last one specifically. It's the best month of the season that he played. So there are 2 ways to look at this. 1, Jalen Green doesn't care until he's either not supposed to or when he's supposed to, or it's just a really funny pattern. I think most people are probably going to go with the latter, but we need narratives on this show. We need shit to sink our teeth into. Because I'm thinking about this like, we got Game 6 Clay, we got Hoodie Mello, we got Untucked Kyrie, and now you're telling me we have March Jalen Green? We got March Madness Jalen Green when the Rockets needed it the most. This game against Oklahoma City, they throw... like Lou Dort and who else was it that they threw at him? Maybe Shea, I don't know. But they try to trap Jalen Green, splits it immediately, and does some like insane voodoo acrobat shit at the rim. Dog, you've never seen him like this before. It's literally Jalen Green like you've never seen him. It's literally Jalen Green like how they were promoting him out of the G League Ignite. Huh? It happened. The Rockets are good. Shit. Fuck. And I'm bearing the lead. Believe it or not. Because do you know who's joining the team next year? Assuming they don't move him. I don't know why they would. Steven Adams. How could the NBA let this happen? How could the Grizzlies let this happen? What was that trade? Didn't they give up a shit ton of second-round picks for him? I could look that up on the fly, but I'm not going to. Pretty sure they gave up a shit ton of capital for him, and it was just kind of like a drop in the bucket. They're like, we want Steven Adams. We know he's not going to be playing this year. Imagine if he was playing this year. Imagine how much more they would have had to give up for him. Huh? With all due... I mean, I'm not going to say, it's fucking Steven Adams. Steven Adams is awesome. And is like one of the most likable dudes in the NBA. I would go as far as this... impromptu segment, reintroduction, takes I don't mean. Is Steven Adams... one of the most likable players in the history of the NBA. That I've been alive for, I was born in 1998, yes. Where he fits in there, I'll go top 15 off the top of my head. No, I don't know who else is in there. I could maybe squeeze him into the top 12, but usually if you say top 12, they're just number 12. That's got to be the biggest piece of horse shit that I have with people who want lists and rankings all the time. Talk about the top 75 players of all time. Every year, Bleacher Report, ESPN, whoever it is, comes out with the top 100 players in the NBA. Who the fuck has time to debate who the 42nd best player in the NBA is? Oh, you got this guy ranked at 71. I'd put him at least 65. Shut the fuck up. Oh my God, I'm going to throw up. Who cares? Who cares? I have the capacity to go to 10. If I really needed to do a mental exercise, I could get to 15. You got me fucked up if you think I'm going to 20. That's crazy. Who cares at that point? It's probably marginal. I'd argue in the top 10 it's marginal, especially in 2024 with how talented this damn league is. What's the difference between the top 4 guys in the NBA? Not that much. Not that much. Well, some of them got championships and some of them got MVPs. Sure, but that's not even what we're talking about here. Because if we were talking about it from an MVP's perspective, LeBron should have, like, all of them. He should have more than the, 4 that he does. Hasn't won one in damn 10 years. Huh? Longer than that. Hasn't it been? No, he won, I think it's been about 10 years. Huh? It's the same reason that Michael doesn't have that many. Because people were just like, yeah, he's, like, the best, but, like, tired of greatness. I don't need to explain this. We all understand how voter fatigue works, but it gets to a point with dudes who are that good that it's just not even voter fatigue. You know? This defensive player of the year conversation is interesting to me because you know what I learned this week? I learned that, like, Rudy Gobert is apparently the defensive coordinator for the Timberwolves. I didn't know he, like, just, I don't know, he's the one who's with the whiteboard up there, and he's like, all right, so here's what we're going to do. Drags a cigarette because he's French, eats a wheel of cheese, pulls a baguette out of his bag and uses that as a marker to draw the, what are some other French stereotypes I can think of? There's something about Ratatouille in there. Something about surrendering, because France's military has historically been a little wishy-washy in wars. Alrighty, folks, let's move on. copingoursubs@gmail.com is the email if you want to send anything into the show, spelled out phonetically. The email will be available in the description of wherever it is that you listen to the show. This one comes into us from Justice. Justice, welcome to the show. What the fuck happened to Justice Winslow? I was just thinking about him the other day. He just stopped playing basketball. He was like getting hurt too much and then it just didn't work anymore. Justice, welcome to the show. Subject line, dream blunt rotation. What's up, Nick? Congrats on the baby. Hoping to be the uncle who offers him a Corona when he's like 11 at the family function. Also, wondering who's in your all-NBA blunt rotation. You can go one for each position or go full woke and just do your top 5. I'm probably going to do that. For posterity, I'll throw his in here. He's got Andre Miller at the 1, J.R. Smith at the 2, KD at the 3, Quincy Acey at the 4, and Jokic at the 5. I don't know. I'm just spitballing here. Myers Leonard, no. Kevin Durant's on there. I'm not going to do positions. I don't think I'll be able to do that. And I am going to kind of go all-time a little bit here. I guess you did too. Quincy Acey. Was Quincy Acey, like, did he famously, like, smoke weed? Is he a cool dude? I didn't really know that much about him. I'm going to go Kevin Durant, Jeff Teague. I kind of want to throw Chris Anderson in there, a.k.a. Birdman. I'm going to put a pin in that. I'm going to leave him off for just right now, and if I need to add some, he's a reserve. Chris Anderson is coming off the bench. He's maybe the dude who we buy weed from, and we smoke with him a little bit beforehand just because we're like, we bought weed from you and we don't want you to think that this relationship is exclusively transactional, even though it is. And like, you're a good dude, we just don't want to hang out that much. So that's what I'll say is Chris Anderson is the dude who we're buying weed from, but the actual circle is, I know Kevin Durant and I would be best friends. I just fucking know that we would. And Jeff Teague has become a guy who, since he's started a podcast, I had no idea. I did not know that Jeff Teague had it in him. That he is like the funniest fucking player who's ever played in the NBA. Pat Bev is the same way, honestly, but I don't think I'm going to put him on this. Mikal Bridges, maybe? No, nah. Maybe Josh Hart? Nah. Maybe. Why Jokic? I don't think he would be. I think he'd be a fucking nightmare to smoke weed with. Honestly. Klay Thompson. Klay is a great one, Nick. Good job. Klay is the obvious one because he just does it habitually. There's got to be like an all-timer in here that I'm thinking of. Maybe, would Charles Barkley be funny, or would he just like, I feel like Charles Barkley would kind of tweak a little bit and he would kind of ruin everybody's night, and he would just be like, did somebody just fucking knock on the door? Chuck, no. Chill. Like, just sink into the couch, bro. You're good. You're good. We just have to keep telling him that he's good. So I think Chuck would ruin it. I don't know anybody on the inside the NBA panel that I'd really want. What does Jamal Crawford even do on those, by the way? It's no shade to Jamal Crawford because I know he's terminally online and there's a non-zero chance that he'll hear me say this. He keyword searches himself on Twitter all the time. You can't really do that on YouTube. I mean, you can, but this wouldn't come up. from him doing that, so I guess I can kind of get my shit off. He's not like a dude who carries the water. He just kind of goes like, yeah, for sure. Yeah, definitely. I think the Lakers are going to win. Expert analysis from Jamal Crawford. Candace Parker is like, when they have to do like the alternate panel, when it's not just who we all, Shaq, Ernie, Kenny, and Chuck, and it's Shaq, Adam Lefkoe, Candace, Jamal Crawford. Next, Skip, and it's not about Candace Parker. I think they could add Candace Parker to the aforementioned A team, and I'd be like, no notes. She's amazing. She's amazing. You guys see this thing? Oh, here I go again. I didn't even finish answering the guy's question. So we'll put... There aren't that many players in the NBA who I think would be that fun to smoke weed with. Pre-criminal charges and investigation, Miles Bridges would have been amazing. Ooh. I'm going to zag. Because I do mean that, but I don't want to do it now. Now that I know how he is as a dude, I don't want to do that anymore. Ja Morant. So how many have I even named so far? Ja Morant is definitely in there. Zion would be fun to some extent. Maybe if I threw in like Mario Chalmers. I think I've named like 7 or 8 guys at this point. Luke. Kyrie. What the fuck? What am I spending so much time talking in circles for? Dog, you could cut everybody off the list. Give me KD and Kyrie. That's all I want. That's all I need is those two. Because either Kyrie is going to go into some insane bullshit and the conversation, but do I want to do that when I'm just trying to chill with Katie and Kyrie? As Kyrie's talking about how like Ozempic actually raises fertility in women, and people don't know this, which is, but that's true though. So reading a whole study about it, that women who take Ozempic are actually more likely to get pregnant, especially if you're on birth control, because the goal of Ozempic is to empty your stomach as much as possible, which reduces the effectiveness of any medications or antibiotics that you're on. And in turn, also, if you're taking Ozempic, it's presumably because you either are you're supposed to be diabetic. But the reason that people use it recreationally is because they want to lose weight. That's the point of Ozempic, right? Maybe I have that. It's supposed to be a diabetes medication, right? But people are like, well, you can lose a bunch of weight. I don't know. But also because the more weight that you lose as a woman, just the more fertile you become. I was reading a whole thing about it a couple days ago, and a lot of the science was kind of lost on me. They're using too many words that had too many syllables, and I didn't really understand it. But I did learn that if you're a woman and you take Ozempic, that you are more likely to get pregnant. There's actually a woman that I knew, she was a couple grades older than me, in high school. She got her wisdom teeth taken out, and then she was on a bunch of antibiotics, and that fucked with her birth control, and she ended up getting pregnant. And so everybody was like, you got your wisdom teeth out, and then you got pregnant? And so everybody was like, you can get pregnant from getting your wisdom teeth out? The more you know. The more you know, I guess. Does this answer the question? What's crazy is I don't even know if I should be there. If I'm smoking weed with these dudes, I don't think I should be there, because then I'm going to just start talking about that. I'm going to be like, did you guys see this shit about the Francis Scott Key Bridge in Baltimore? Can I tell you, honestly, my, what's the word I'm looking for? Intrusive thoughts are often on this show. And I say a lot of things that even if I whether or not I mean them or don't mean them, I shouldn't say sometimes. Because it's like, why? For what? Like, all you're doing it, whatever. I would argue sometimes the QAnon flavor of the week doesn't need to be in the show, but I always think, A, it's hilarious, because that level of internet brain rot is, to me, what is so endearing about the internet, while also at the same time being what terrifies me the most about the internet. And I think in some ways it's important to sort of raise awareness in that sense. Also because it's good content in my head, at least. The QAnon flavor of the week for the Baltimore Bridge collapsing is that, and hold on, because it's a lot. It's a huge theory. So it's basically that this was done on purpose. It was a domestic terrorist attack. So that way, when Joe Biden said that the government will rebuild the bridge for free, not for free, but they'll pay for it, he's actually just going to get a bunch of migrants to rebuild the bridge, and then they're going to illegally vote for Biden to get him reelected. And I was like, here's my problem, man, is conservatives are dumb. They're just dumb. If they had me on their team, right, and they really needed me to connect some dots, I fucking could. But the problem is that all they do is they're like, they just get to point B and there's no point A. And they just arrive at the conclusion that something nefarious happened, that something like a domestic terrorist attack happened, or that like Ukraine is behind this. They're pissed about getting their funding cut off, and Ukraine drove a cargo ship into the bridge. And it's like, no. And they're like, we have all the evidence. Just wait for this is a black swan event waiting to happen. I swear to God. You don't just see it's a cyber attack on the ship. It's not. I'm saying all of this to say, for the first time in I don't know how long, if you just read about what happened, you know what it sounds like? A thing that happened. A thing that unfortunately happened. Because apparently this ship, guy asking me to do a dream blunt rotation and talking about the fucking bridge again. Not again. It just happened. I just mean, for once, I would love to read an email and spend 20 minutes on the email. I guess I just have more. So here's the thing. A couple years ago, this fucking ship, like, ran into a stone wall. And then whatever, you know, a company is in charge of conducting these, like, not investigations, but these, like, maintenance checks and just making sure that, you know, they're able to sail. Inspections is the word I'm looking for. They were like, yeah, like, you can sail it, but you shouldn't. Like, this can go on the water, but there's a lot of irreparable damage, and we don't know how much longer this thing's got. And then, like, a year ago, they did an inspection, and, like, the, like, gauges, and not thermometers, but the, gauges and shit on the boat were, like, they were all fucked up, and they're like, this boat doesn't work. The ship does not work at all. So over the years, there have just been more and more, like, barely passing the inspection things that have happened with this fucking ship, to a point where it kind of just feels like it was an inevitability that something like this was going to happen. And it just so happens that it was in Baltimore, and they ran into a bridge. And then, like, construction workers fall in, and then after, like, 12 hours, the Coast Guard was like, we give up. I'm not going to find them. And you get why they did it, is the water's too cold. Sure, whatever. I think it was just a thing that happened. Believe it or not, folks. I'm sitting here today to tell you that I don't think anything weird happened with the bridge in Baltimore. I think it was just a very shitty accident. I hope that answers your question, Justice. Let's move on. All right, let's wrap up today's show. Let's talk about something that we usually don't talk about on this show, but believe it or not, I do have some thoughts on it, and I would like to present them. Maybe by the time this comes out, I'm recording this actually a little bit. I don't think I mentioned this. I'm recording this early because on Friday we have a baby shower to go to, and I think the timing of it is just going to conflict a little bit too much, and I don't want to. I just want to make sure this episode gets out when it needs to. So Metro comes out with this album with Future, and there's a surprise feature from Kendrick. Let me fucking tell you, if you're going to do surprise features, you got to pull shit out like Kendrick. Because with all due respect to, like, Young Thug, when I'm like, ooh, invisible features, like this first playthrough, like, I'm just going to have to listen and find out who's on this record. And then, like, Young Thug shows up, I'm like, cool. Like, fucking the Kid Leroy shows up, you're like, wow, that's so cool. But when Kendrick shows up, it's like, whoa, whoa, whoa. Like sicko mode, like when Drake shows up, you're like, whoa! Remember that moment? Remember how cool that was? Yeah, so Kendrick has some shit to say about Drake and J. Cole. Okay, we've all seen the lyrics, we've all heard the song. Here's my thing. Doesn't quite feel like my lane to say this, but I gotta be honest with you. I'm a Drake stan. If he released something tomorrow, I'm listening to it at midnight. We were talking about this also on the shoot around the other day, although I don't think it's on the episode. I think it was just whatever. Drake has been on this run for like 6 years now, where he's too famous, he's like too on top, and he doesn't have anything to talk about. It doesn't mean he doesn't make good music, but this genre that this subgenre that he's created of like victory lap rap, where all he talks about is how fucking sick he is and like how cool his shit is, and like he'll still somehow say some stuff that's pretty relatable, but it just feels out of touch a lot of the time. Like when you're talking about like, oh, you still taking pictures on a Gulfstream? That's like, you're too rich. You're too rich if you're making fun of someone for flying a Gulfstream. The fuck? Huh? Not everybody can have Air Drake, I guess. That's victory lap rap. That's what this is. And Drake has no issue punching down. He has no issue saying a bunch of shit about rappers that are like 15 levels below him. He has no issue saying shit about women. He has no issue saying shit about Megan Thee Stallion or Rihanna, like unprompted for literally no reason at all. But when somebody on your level, when Kendrick Lamar has some shit to say, it's crickets? Really? And who knows? Maybe something will come out. Sounds like, I mean, what he said at his show the other day, he's like, I'm 10 toes down. He's like, nobody can fuck with me. That's not a response, though. That's not a response. And there's this rumor out there that, like, Kendrick already has something in the chamber in the event that Drake does decide to say something. I hope he does. I hope Drake does. Honestly, because this would be like a generational, like Drake versus Meek was cool. Drake versus Push was cool. You know, I can't think any off the top of my head. I don't know, like Eminem and MGK. Who fucking cared? Who cared? Seriously, what sucks about for MGK is his actually wasn't bad. It was like, it wasn't bad, but it was Eminem. So like everybody was gonna also just, who fucking cares? Who cares? But in my life, I can't think of anything that would have been on this level of like Drake and Kendrick saying some shit to each other, because they've hated each other for what, like a decade now? It's been a while that they've kind of, their relationship has been really weird. And I think it's crazy that all J. Cole was doing is it K-Dot, is it Aubrey or me? We're the big three, like we started a league. He's like, nah, like get in the car. Like it's all of us, man. Like he's showing love. And Kendrick is like, fuck you. You guys are not on my level at all. Like he's like offended by that. Which is, I don't know. I guess, does that seem quintessentially Kendrick? I suppose. Mr. Morale and the Big Steppers. I re-listened to it the other day, actually, front to back. I listened to the whole thing, didn't skip anything, none of it. And I think I stand by what the original sentiment of that album was, which was like, people were upset that there were no like club records. There was nothing there for the radio. Like there just wasn't anything like that. But that's just not what the point of it was. It was like very therapeutic for him to get a lot of that shit out. And I think from like a storytelling perspective, it's a beautiful album. It's not his best, right? And it's not one that, to my own point, like you're just not putting on a lot. What's the one with the, is it not Child's Play? What the fuck is the one where they're arguing the whole time? Dog. It's a showstopper. It's like a holy shit, this is art. This is a masterpiece. The video for it is great too. But I'm gonna be bummed if we don't hear anything from Drake on this, and I think it's gonna be kind of like a running from the grind, Aubrey. What about Shohei Ohtani, Nick? He officially released a statement. Yeah, it was very canned. They followed the playbook. He said everything he was supposed to say. I just don't know if I really even want to do it, like, until actual information comes out, because the people who were so sure that this was Shohei Ohtani gambling, and all he had to do was give a 10 to 12 minute press conference, and now all those people are convinced that he was actually a victim here. Dude, he might have been. He might have been. It honestly sounds like, with the way that his finances have been handled in the past, and the way that, like, Mizuhara was his fucking, he was the communication. Like, he was the connection to Shohei. It's not impossible to think that something like this could have happened, 100%. But it's he said. And that's all that it's going to be until, like, it's weird. One of the only things I find weird is that Shohei's camp is as reluctant as they are to tell anybody which authorities they reported this to. And you're going to say that's not their responsibility and they don't have to do that. They do not. They absolutely don't. And maybe it's my projection of like a Western brain and not like an inherently private and tight-lipped culture, right? Which is really all that Shohei has been. That's really all that Shohei has shown us since he's gotten to the league. He posts on Instagram like 3 weeks ago that he's married, and half of his teammates were like, huh? You got married? People don't... This guy is literally only here to play baseball. So no, it is not on them to tell... But at the same time, it's like, dude, if somebody stole $10 from me, I'm letting everybody know that I called the cops. The fuck? I'm calling the feds. Give me my money back. And so to have made, what, 9 different wires or deposits of $500,000 for it to not make a blip. But again, that just goes back to who was controlling his finances and what accounts these were coming out of. I can't send over $2,500 on Zelle without my bank being like, what the fuck is going on? So it's just weird to me to have this happening. But it certainly seems like, and again, this was part of the playbook, was to make him seem pissed and a little bit, blissfully ignorant to being exploited by a friend, which is another thing that is so common in sports, not just in America. That happens all over the world, that these professional athletes are exploited by their families. Isn't there something like that going on with Baker Mayfield right now? Someone in the comments, I'm sure, will fill us in on what the Baker Mayfield thing is. But it's your family sometimes that you got to look out for, right? In the worst way. And it sounds like Mizuhara to Shohei was family. Turns out it was in the worst way. So I don't know, man. We'll see. We'll see. I don't know whose fault this is. Somebody was gambling. I think the craziest thing about what Shohei said in the press conference was that this is so unhinged, that they play the first game in Korea against the Padres, and then immediately after the game, they have a team meeting in the locker room, and Mizuhara is like, he stands up in front of the entire team and tells everybody, yeah, I had this $4.5 million line of credit open. I was in debt, and Shohei paid it off. Shohei didn't have an interpreter next to him to understand what the fuck was going on. But he was like, but I knew something was wrong. What? And he goes, right after that, we go to a hotel. Him and I have a one-on-one, and he explains to me everything that happened. The fuck? And tinfoil hatists out there will just tell you. So they had a one-on-one to sort of get their story straight. I don't know. I don't know. I care. I can't say I don't care because I absolutely do. But again, I think Shohei did his job, and I think he said all the right things. The problem is that they just need to figure out what the story actually is, because we're on like version number 3 of it in some sense. So we'll see. I say I don't want to talk about it and I don't have anything to say, and then I give 6 minutes on it. So I say all of that just to say, in the future, until there is a massive bombshell, I don't think it's worth it to discuss it, because with how I release these episodes, there could be like a massive bomb that drops 15 minutes after I upload this, and it's like, shit. It was right after I uploaded Monday's episode that they're like, yeah, he's going to be doing a press conference this afternoon. I was like, fuck, man. I'm going to look like an asshole in everything that I said. Turns out I didn't. But, because everything I said could end up being true. But we'll see, ladies and gentlemen. Alrighty, folks. Ooh, I had a cigar over the weekend. Got any cigar smokers out there? I woke up yesterday with you guys ever had a cigar headache before? I've never had one like that. I've never had a headache like that before. And why did that happen? I inhaled too much. Shouldn't have done it. I didn't even think I did. I knew it happened a handful of times, but I didn't think I did it that much that it would be a problem. Turns out when you're like 4 or 5 Dirty Shirleys deep and your father-in-law's like, you want a cigar? Yeah, I do, actually. I would love some tobacco. Thank you very much for asking. Yeah, I got a little bit too carried away. And then you spend 60 minutes, it's a 60-minute burn on that fucker, little Nicaraguan cigar, It was wonderful, but I woke up with a pretty brutal headache the following day. Alrighty, folks. If you are listening to this on Spotify, nice little 5-star review would be lovely. If you're watching this on YouTube, nice little comment for the algorithm. Leave a like. Be sure to subscribe. And I will catch you guys
Computers now have
in the
primary
next
control.
Beautiful, beautiful,
Primary control.
beautiful,
Primary control.
beautiful,
Primary control.
beautiful.